The throne room of the Galactic Sovereign Court did not believe in subtlety. Vaulted ceilings shimmered with the illusion of starlight, while hovering chandeliers pulsed in rhythm with the breath of the king. Gold-veined obsidian tiles stretched beneath 100 eyes, alien nobles, dignitaries, and military commanders, all gathered to witness the latest spectacle of Voryx the Vast. She stood in the center of it all, a woman, human, barefoot on cold stone, wearing the dull gray tunic of a low-tier prisoner. Her hands rested behind her back with a poise not taught, but earned. A long scratch marred her left cheek, a dried echo of resistance. Her name was Emma Collins, and her face was calm in the way only deep waters are calm, right before they swallow something whole. "Speak, Earthwoman," the Galactic King croaked, his throat sac pulsing like an oil drum about to burst. "Your species has not yet grasped deference. Perhaps captivity will teach you manners." Emma tilted her head slightly. "You'll want to recalibrate your translator." That sounded a lot like projection. The translator drone word in confusion, blinked blue, and broadcast the sentence twice. The second time, louder. A low chuckle rippled from a lower tier. A winged diplomat from the Thrall Collective covered its mouthparts. Voryx's lidless eyes narrowed. She hadn't screamed. She hadn't cried. She hadn't begged for mercy when they dragged her aboard the royal cruiser like some tribal trophy. Not during the shock harnessing, not through the neural scan. No sobs, no rage, just that look, measured, like a mother waiting for a tantrum to end before she went back to her book. A four-armed servant scurried to offer her alien fruit, translucent slices that quivered like nervous jellies. Emma studied them, then smiled politely. "I'm good, thanks. I'll wait for tea." The silence that followed felt intentional. "You decline the food of peace?" Voryx asked, insult mounting. "I decline to eat anything that resembles a stress toy," she replied, tone soft. "And I wasn't aware this was a peace offering." She turned to face the court, gaze passing across scales, feathers, glistening gills, obsidian carapaces. Their kind had sailed the stars for 1,000 years and never encountered resistance that didn't fold or scream. But this one? She stood like she'd already won something they hadn't yet figured out was a contest. A smaller, furry alien near the edge whispered to its companion, "Why does she not tremble?" "Because," muttered an elder reptilian noble, voice dry as a dying sun, "she's measuring the walls." Emma glanced at them and winked. There was something particularly disarming about her face. Not beautiful in the classic sense, but precise. Every micro-expression chosen like a sculptor's chisel. She looked as though she might ask how your day was going, right before calmly informing you your empire would fall before supper. Voryx slammed his three-jointed hand on the throne's edge. "You presume upon our patience." Emma shrugged. "Humans are very good at patience. We invented lines and parking lots." The court didn't understand, but they felt it, that undercurrent, that strange mix of mirth and menace. Voryx forced a wheezing laugh, trying to re-establish control. "Your race is young, primitive, all spirit, no sophistication. We are a galaxy's worth of power." She raised her brows. "So tell me," she said gently, "why you had to chain a librarian from Denver to prove it." There was no laughter this time, only the sound of systems quietly malfunctioning. Overhead, one chandelier flickered. "She's baiting us," hissed General Vroth from the Scar Alliance, a species that evolved in acidic rain. His voice sizzled even through the translator. "Or worse, she's not." In the rafters, sensors flickered. Readings bounced erratically off her vitals. No signs of panic. No elevated heart rate. She might as well have been on a spa retreat. Emma took 2 steps forward. Careful, slow. She knelt. Not in surrender, but in examination. Her hand brushed the stone floor. "This is artificial," she murmured. "What?" the king snapped. "The tiles," she replied. "Synthetic basalt. Good for hiding cracks. Bad for echo control. If you wanted to intimidate, you'd have used untreated obsidian. Something that screamed when someone walked across it. But this feels like you're afraid of hearing your own footsteps." The room absorbed her words like a sponge soaking oil. Thick, heavy. Then she stood again, brushing imaginary dust from her knees. "I understand," she said at last. "You think you're lions." Vorex leaned in. "But lions don't build cages," Emma continued. "Shepherds do. And shepherds are scared something might get in." The old reptilian noble whispered, "She's not looking for allies. She's listening for flaws." A young alien lieutenant nearby tilted his head. His name in his language meant Watcher of Winds. He'd been trained in xenolinguistics and observed closely as her fingers drummed against her thigh. ... Repeat. He froze. "She's tapping," he said aloud. "Some kind of pattern." Nobody listened. Too transfixed. Vorex leaned back, talons tapping the edge of his seat. "We may dissect her mind." Emma raised a finger. "If you can find it." Pause. "And if I may offer some unsolicited advice, never say that to a woman from Earth." Somewhere in the palace, a soft system alert pinged, then vanished. Engineers brushed it off. Emma turned to the court. "May I speak plainly?" No one gave permission, but she continued anyway. "You think we haven't seen monsters before. You think war is your birthright. But the truth is, humans don't fear war. We just find it inefficient." Vorex sneered. "And what do you find efficient?" Emma's expression didn't change. "Regret. It lasts longer." The tension cracked. "Enough," growled Vorex. "You are a child. Your species still counts years in revolutions. You are nothing more than a curiosity." Emma smiled. A quiet smile. Not mocking. Not cold. "You don't bring curiosities to courtrooms," she said softly. "You bring evidence." For a moment it was too quiet. Then the chandeliers pulsed again. A strange echo threaded through the far halls. A vibration in the air, subtle but certain. It was not in the stone, not in the sensors, but in the instincts of every creature in that room. The kind of echo that said, "Something is watching." Emma didn't move, but her eyes flicked once to the ceiling, then back to the king. "There's a human saying," she said at last, "about monsters." She waited. "In our stories, they always forget the same thing." Vorex raised a brow. "And what's that?" She smiled again, serene as snowfall. "We write our own endings." And just as the king opened his mouth to reply, the air shimmered, barely perceptible, but enough. The Watcher of Winds saw it first, a flicker of cloaked displacement far above the palace. And in that moment, Emma Collins turned her head, looking directly into the camera lens hidden in the chandeliers. Not smiling now, just waiting. The interrogation chamber was circular, sleek, and absurdly quiet. No corners, no shadows, no edges, just a soft hum under the floor like a beast breathing through stone lungs. Every surface was polished enough to blur reflections, enough to confuse the mind. Emma Collins sat cross-legged in the center, elbows resting on her knees, humming a song the room's recorders couldn't identify. Something distinctly human. Something old and cheerful and off-key, like a schoolyard rhyme filtered through too many wars. Across the invisible perimeter hovered the observers, 36 eyes from 12 alien empires, watching through fields of translucent film. They called this the Prism Room, not for its color, for its ability to bend truth. She didn't blink. Not when they changed gravity. Not when they pumped and sense-engineered to provoke species-specific anxiety. Not when the lights dimmed in a sequence known to trigger emotional instability in 92% of known mammals. Emma simply sat. "Begin pain simulation," murmured Overseer Lithra, a gelatinous coordinator with nerves that twitched visibly under her translucent skin. They initiated Sequence 9, thermal spikes followed by sonic needles. Designed to fracture resistance. Proven effective against the Gvar elite. Enough to cause a Trannic veteran to scream. Emma winced. But not from pain. From boredom. "This again," she asked softly, voice muffled by the pressure dome. "Feels like a Monday." A second overseer tapped her screen. "This is impossible. Neural activity baseline." "She's suppressing." "No. The technician hesitated. "She's adapting." Inside, Emma shifted her weight, allowing the mild sting to fade through her shoulder. She exhaled once, calm, controlled, rhythmic. Her fingers tapped again. Morse. She knew they'd intercept it eventually. That was part of the point. DONT, TRUST, THE, FOOD. Then the letters dissolved into nonsense. A game. A dare. Something that could be decoded or discarded. She knew how this worked. Make them unsure. Give them too much. Or not enough. Vorex watched the feed from his throne suite, lounging in a vat of mineral fluid. His aides hovered nervously nearby. "This is not natural," he hissed. "She's shielding. No organic being could endure this without neural scramblers." "She has none," his assistant replied. "We triple-checked." "Then she's broken." "No," said a voice behind them. The reptilian noble. Advisor Threx. "She's studying." Vorex turned. "Studying what?" "Us." Threx pointed a gnarled claw toward the feed, where Emma now sat tracing circles on the floor with one finger. "She's not immune to pain. She's simply prioritizing curiosity." Back in the prism room, a tray was slid through a seamless aperture in the wall. Food. Real food. Human food, cloned from Earth samples. Roasted chicken. Mashed potatoes. A biscuit. Emma tilted her head. Her stomach ached with hunger. She leaned forward, took a sniff, then smiled. "Cute," she whispered. "Used rosemary this time." She didn't eat. The overseers took notes. On day 3, they introduced a companion, a four-eyed, rail-thin creature from the MO gene race. Soft-voiced, shy, a being who'd never seen a human before. Its name was Trilix, barely out of training, nervous to its bones. Emma watched as the being entered, trembling tray in hand. "Hello," she said gently. "You must be new." Trilix blinked all 4 eyes. I bring nutrients. For you." She accepted the tray, set it aside without looking. "Thank you." Trilix lingered. Most did not. Most turned quickly, afraid of the way her presence lingered like pressure behind the eyes. "You do not act like the others," Trilix said. Emma smiled. "I try not to." "You are not angry. Would it help?" "I don't know." "Then neither do I." She looked up, locking onto Trilix's central eye. "Can I ask you something?" Trilix nodded. "Have you ever played chess?" The concept didn't translate. She tried again. "A game. 2 players. Square board. Strategy. 1 winner." "I do not believe I have." Emma reached into her prison tunic, pulling a string from the hem. From it, she untied a tiny cloth pouch. Inside, pebbles. 12 smooth, black. 12 white. She gestured to the floor. Trilix sat, hesitant, but curious. The court officials watched from beyond the glass with mounting discomfort. "She's playing games," one hissed. "She's educating," Threx murmured. "Watch." Emma moved a white pebble forward. Trilix followed, hesitantly, then more boldly. After 5 minutes, it was clear the MO gene had a knack for it. After 10, Emma leaned in. "We never conquer," she said softly. "We absorb. We adapt. And sometimes we wait." Trilix blinked. "For what?" "For someone to forget they're playing a game." The MO gene glanced toward the surveillance node embedded in the ceiling, then back at Emma. "Are you dangerous?" it whispered. She smiled. "I'm a kindergarten teacher." The MO gene blinked. "I don't know what that is." "You'll learn." In the palace corridors, rumors spread like plasma in open airlocks. The Earth woman didn't sleep. She didn't eat unless she chose to. She made guards nervous by asking about their families. She quoted ancient Earth poets, and then stared too long at nothing. She once whistled during a storm drill, and the sound interfered with the emergency frequency. And somehow, without ever raising her voice, she made every soldier who entered her chamber forget their orders for at least 30 seconds. Fear has many names, but the most ancient one is still uncertainty. On the 7th day, Emma was summoned back to the throne chamber. This time, there were fewer witnesses. Vorex sat tall, flanked by 2 armored guards. His face betrayed no amusement. "You have been given comfort, leniency, freedom to speak, and yet you insult our hospitality with insolence." Emma stepped forward. "I think your definition of hospitality needs work." He bared his fangs. "You will speak truth now." "I always do." He slammed his claws into the dais. "What is your mission?" Emma blinked, smiled. "To survive. And to learn. Two things you should have tried before hosting a war criminal as a guest." The room stilled. "What makes you think you are not the prisoner?" Vorex hissed. Emma's tone was calm, almost pitying. "Because only one of us walks in and out of rooms without asking permission." She turned, walked in a slow circle, as though measuring the space. "I've seen a lot of cages," she added. "Most don't have thrones in them, but they all echo the same when you're alone." Vorex snarled. "Enough riddles. Who sent you?" Emma looked back over her shoulder. "Would you believe me if I said I got lost on a camping trip?" "No." "Good. Because that's the lie." Trilix, watching from the doorway, trembled. Emma turned to the cameras. "To whoever's watching, I hope you're recording." She raised her wrist. No device was visible. But deep within the tech veins of the palace, an old Earth code pulsed from a microfilament buried in her skin. It rode through forgotten maintenance channels and into hidden nodes, places older empires never thought to lock. Message sent. The chandelier above her hummed. Emma exhaled. "By the way," she added, almost as an afterthought, "your neural dampeners have a fault line between level C and D." Vorex's eyes widened. "That's impossible." Emma tilted her head. "Tell that to your engineer. Or don't." "I already did." And then, almost too quiet to hear, came the sound of distant footsteps. Rhythmic. Uniform. Approaching. Emma smiled again. This time, she blinked. Once. Slowly. Like the beginning of a countdown. The banquet hall of the Galactic Sovereign Court shimmered like a mirage, a chamber built to dazzle the foolish into submission. Crystal towers dripped with glowing nectar. Atmospheres were modulated by species-specific air zones. The floor pulsed with rhythmic light patterns intended to soothe even the most combative predator races. Emma Collins stood near the end of a long ceremonial table, dwarfed by the gleam of alien metals and the stench of a dozen cultures trying too hard to impress each other. Her posture remained casual, almost negligent, hands tucked behind her back like a bored schoolteacher at a faculty meeting. To her left, an amphibious delegate from the Fenari licked his own eyelids between gulps of live fish. To her right, a jewel-armored diplomat from the Veltii Order adjusted her breathing cone, clearly annoyed that no translator could replicate human sarcasm. Emma sipped from a small clay cup, imported earth tea, brewed by Trilix with great care. The MO gene had fussed over the temperature and the infusion ratio like it was preparing a weapon. Emma had smiled. In a way, it was. Vorex presided at the head of the table, wearing ceremonial armor laced with shimmering dread spores, a status symbol on his homeworld. His gills flared with satisfaction. This was his stage, and the Earth Woman was his center prop. "Let it be known," he declared, voice thick with grandeur, "that even the wildest animal can be tamed with patience and purpose." He gestured toward Emma. "And so we host our guest not as a prisoner, but as a lesson." Polite chuckles rippled across the hall. A few diplomats clapped. Others watched her with narrowed eyes, unsure if the lesson was aimed at them instead. Emma set her cup down. "Your translation device is working," she said cheerfully. "Just thought I'd confirm, since you keep saying things out loud that you'll regret." A deep silence followed. Somewhere near the center of the hall, a cephalon delegate dropped its fork. The utensils here floated, each piece hovering midair, spinning in subtle synchronicity with its user's pulse. The Galactic King's nostrils flared. "Your species must learn humility." Emma nodded. "We tried that once. Then we invented nuclear weapons, coffee, and the electric chair. Humility didn't survive." A Veltii noble coughed and sipped from a jade chalice. Vorex changed tactics. "Then perhaps you'll offer insight," he said smoothly. "Tell us why humans name storms after people, or why you fight over imaginary lines in dirt." Emma took a slow breath. "Because storms leave scars. And lines mean belonging, even if it's imaginary." She let the words settle. It wasn't defiance anymore. It was explanation. That made it worse. The reptilian elder Threx observed from a side alcove, silent but alert. His eyes tracked Emma the way ancient wolves watched campfires. Across the hall, Trilix quietly replenished her tea. "You've taught him well," Threx said softly, stepping beside her. Emma didn't look. "He's observant. Kind. The galaxy will punish him for that." "You sound like you've already seen it." "I have. On Earth, we call it middle school." Threx's tail twitched once. It might have been a laugh. Then the lights dimmed, not as a malfunction, but as ceremony. Hollow crystals lit above the table, forming constellations from dozens of homeworlds. A grand projection designed to remind every delegate just how vast and untouchable the galactic order was. It also provided perfect visual cover. In Quadrant 9 of the projection, an unfamiliar formation blinked once. Briefly, a simple shape, 3 circles inside a triangle. Human signal code. Emma's eyes didn't move, but the corners of her mouth turned slightly. A voice boomed from the projection. "Let this display commemorate unity." Below it, panic blossomed, silent, subtle. One insectoid ambassador's jaw twitched. A thrall prince looked down and whispered something to his guard. The signal had been too fast for most. But not all. Vorix hadn't noticed. He raised a hand. "And now," he said, "our guest will say a few words on behalf of her kind." Emma stepped forward. She moved with the confidence of someone who'd already read tomorrow's headlines. "Thank you," she said, nodding politely. "It's an honor to be here." Truly. She reached into her pocket, pulled out nothing. Let the room lean in. "I've been asked if humans are dangerous," she said. "It's a fair question. You've seen us fight, or scream, or burn. You think our violence is our truth." She took a step toward the center of the projection. "But that's not what makes us dangerous." One by one, delegates leaned forward. "What makes us dangerous," she said, "is that we learn." The projection flickered. "We study our enemies. We mimic. We adapt. And most of all, we wait." 3 more signals blinked across the projection sky. Emma kept going. "We don't have claws. Or acid breath. Or genetic memory. We aren't the fastest or the strongest or the smartest." She smiled. "But we're the only species here that told stories around fire long before we had homes." The lights flickered. "And when you tell stories long enough, you learn one thing. Monsters are real. But they're never the ones howling." Vorix's hand trembled. "What are you implying?" Emma looked at him. "I'm not implying anything, Your Majesty." Then softer. "I'm remembering." And then it happened. Not a boom, not a blast, but a shimmer, a pulse, a vibration too low for most to detect. But every military-grade sensor in the building chirped. Once, then shut off. The projection above collapsed into static. The air grew still. Trilix froze mid-step. Threx took one long breath. And Emma? She reached for the discarded chalice of a Veltii noble, tapped the side with her nail. Once, twice, 3 times. Then spoke. "We never intended to be your enemy." The lights returned, but subtly wrong. Warmer, softer. Emma continued. "You kidnapped a human. You thought we'd try to rescue her." She stepped backward into the halo of flickering projections. "But I'm not the one who needs rescuing." She paused. "I'm the one they sent first." From every point on the projection, the symbol returned, larger now, unified. The ancient earth glyph for caution. The delegates looked around. All at once, the sense of control vanished. The throne felt smaller. The walls felt closer. The woman in the gray tunic now stood taller than she had before. "I've never held a gun," Emma said. "I'm not a soldier." She turned slowly, making eye contact with diplomats who hadn't blinked in minutes. "But I'm part of a species that makes every mistake once, and never forgets who made us bleed." Vorix stood, voice cracking. "This is an act of war." Emma raised her cup in mock toast. "No," she said. "This is a story." And as she drank above the palace, outside the atmosphere, a fleet emerged from behind the gravity shadows of the second moon. Silent, dark, undetected. They had been waiting. The banquet, after all, had always needed an audience. The palace alarms never sounded. Not once. Because the human fleet didn't arrive with noise. It came like frost, silent, sharp, inevitable. Their ships didn't pierce the sky with fire. They drifted in, coated in adaptive black, unseen until they were already above the throne world stratosphere, wrapped in gravity folds so subtle even Voryx's high watch didn't register the breach until entire orbital layers blinked offline. In the banquet hall, diplomats were still frozen in place as the star map projection above Emma's head shifted again. The ancient Earth glyph, 3 circles in a triangle, now pulsed steadily in red. Emma stepped forward, her teacup still warm in her hand. She placed it gently onto the ceremonial table. That tiny click of ceramic against alloy was louder than a scream. Voryx stood from his throne. His armored plates hissed with rising heat. "You said you were not a soldier." "I'm not." "Then what are you?" Her eyes didn't blink. "Prepared." He roared and slammed his clawed fist into a sigil embedded in his throne. The lights shifted. The air thickened. Defense fields activated around every entrance, every skylight. Automated turrets clicked into readiness. "You will not take my empire, Earthborn." Emma's expression remained calm, but something behind her eyes changed. Not a flicker of triumph or even anger. Something deeper. Acceptance. "I never came to take it," she said. One by one, alien dignitaries began backing away from her. Not in retreat, but in the kind of confusion that precedes understanding and fear. Across the hall, Threx stood from his chair, his old bones creaking like the hull of a ship about to break atmosphere. "She was never the invasion," he whispered. He turned to the panicked VLTI ambassador beside him. "She's the broadcast." Suddenly, every comm node on the planet, every throne world terminal, ship relay, diplomatic channel, began playing the same feed. Earth standard frequency. Emma's voice. Her face. Live. "My name is Emma Collins. I was taken. I was called a curiosity. A lesser mind. A specimen." She turned her head slightly to face one of the many cameras embedded into the banquet walls. "Now I return the favor." The screen split into 3. Top left, Emma, standing calmly in the banquet hall. Top right, footage from inside Galactic intelligence cores. Locations previously unknown to even most council members, now exposed, downloaded, and flickering. Bottom, the human fleet. Dozens of them, some large and old, with hulls marked in ancient languages. Others sleek and silent. No flags. No emblems. Just a pattern across their bows. The same triangle of circles. "This isn't war," Emma continued. "It's transparency." Chaos bloomed. Several alien dignitaries clutched their communicator bands. Others ran. But the doors didn't open. They were sealed, not locked, but paralyzed, reprogrammed remotely. By Earth. By her. Voryx drew himself to full height, claws flexed. "You infiltrated our neural net. That is a violation of Galactic code." Emma smiled, that same soft smile that had haunted his sleep for days. "Your code assumes everyone plays fair." Behind her, Trilix stepped forward. The Emogene's trembling had stopped. His posture had shifted. Less like prey, more like someone who just remembered how to stand. "You taught him well," Threx said again, even in silence. Emma glanced back. He watched. "That's all humans need to learn." Voryx shouted, "Deactivate her." Now, one of the security officers near the dais raised a disruptor. Emma didn't flinch. But before he could fire, his weapon hissed and powered down. Internal sabotage. A human signal embedded in the last firmware update. A ghost command, quiet for years, waiting for the right voice print. Hers. Emma took a step closer to the throne. "You didn't build an empire. You built a cage. For others. For yourself. And now the locks don't work." Voryx staggered back, while rising in his throat sac. "You think you can destroy us with words?" "No," she said gently. "But I can remind the galaxy what you really are." Above them, the palace's hollow ceiling dissolved into live feeds, declassified archives, intercepted war plans, surveillance footage of assassinations masked as diplomacy. Proof. Truth. And it was all coming from one human, standing barefoot in a place no Earthborn was ever supposed to reach. "You wanted fear," she said. "So you took one of us. You thought it would make you stronger." Emma looked directly into the main broadcast camera. Her voice dropped. "But we're not afraid of pain. Pause. We file it. We study it. We turn it into curriculum." And then she blinked once. The signal burst, went out. In the orbit above, every human ship powered up in perfect silence. But they did not fire. Not one missile launched. Not one hull shifted. They simply held position, humming with restrained menace. They weren't here to kill. They were here to remind. In the banquet hall, Vorik screamed, leaping toward Emma. His talons extended, his breath chemical. He reached her and stopped. Not because she moved, but because she didn't. She stood still and smiled, and every sensor on his armor went dead. He couldn't hear, couldn't smell, couldn't see anything beyond her eyes. In that moment, he saw something older than fire, something that had survived plagues, extinction, famine, and time itself. Something that wore skin not for fashion, but for memory. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. He collapsed at her feet. Not dead. Not broken. Just silent. Across the throne world, the broadcast played for hours. Footage of Emma walking the palace halls. Of human fleets hovering above cities without ever lowering weapons. Of Trilix sitting with her, playing chess, asking questions, writing everything down. When the fleet finally departed, they left no scars. No demands. No threats. Only data. Only knowledge. The lesson had been simple. You may mock what you don't understand, but you should never kidnap a librarian. Later, the galaxy would call it the silent reversal. Some whispered it was a mercy operation. Others believed it was the beginning of something worse. But everyone remembered her face. That smile. The one that didn't blink. And somewhere in a sealed archive on a forgotten asteroid, a final report remained locked behind 7 encryption keys. Its title, Phase 1 complete. Emma stood on the bridge of a cloaked vessel weeks later, her gray tunic now replaced by simple earth cotton and a single brass pin, a triangle of 3 circles. Trilix stood beside her, eyes wide with questions. "Was it always the plan?" he asked. She nodded. "Always. Even the capture? We don't lose people by accident." Trilix paused. "And if the king had killed you?" Emma looked out the viewport. "Then they'd have met someone far less polite." Behind her, deep in the command deck, a silent AI looped the footage of her banquet speech again. Not for vanity. Not for history. For training. Emma stepped away from the window. "Are they watching?" Trilix asked. Emma smiled. "They always are." And somewhere on 100 alien worlds, beings sat in silence, replaying that broadcast. Over and over. Because sometimes the greatest threat isn't war. It's a smile you can't explain.